Get out and never come back. Those words hit me like a freight train. My mother's voice cracked as she screamed it, her finger pointing toward the front door, like she was banishing some kind of criminal from her home. My father, the man who taught me how to ride a bike, how to throw a punch, how to be a man, just stood there with his arms crossed, nodding like I deserved this treatment. For a split second, I felt like that little kid again. The one who used to run to mommy when I scraped my knee. The one who looked up to daddy like he was Superman. But that feeling lasted about 2 seconds before something else took over. Something cold. Something final. I grabbed my keys from the coffee table, the same table where we used to play board games on Christmas morning, and I looked both of them dead in the eye. The words that came out of my mouth next would change everything between us forever. You're going to regret this. I meant every single syllable. If you want to see exactly how this story ends, and what my parents did when they realized the truth, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now, because this gets so much crazier. But before we get into what happened next, I need to know, have you ever had a moment where someone you loved chose hate over you? Drop a comment and let me know, because this story is about to show you exactly what that costs. My name is Orion. I'm 26 years old, and I work in software development, making more money than both my parents have ever made in their lives combined. But here's the thing. That's not how they saw me. Not even close. To them, I was still that screw-up kid who got suspended in high school for spray painting the gym. I was still the disappointment who took 6 years to finish college because I dropped out twice. I was still the son who couldn't keep a girlfriend, couldn't hold down a job, couldn't do anything right in their eyes. My mother, Vesper. Everyone calls her Vess. She's 62, retired from teaching elementary school, and let me tell you something about retired teachers. They never stop grading you. Every conversation felt like I was getting a report card, and I was always failing. She had opinions about everything I did wrong, and she wasn't shy about sharing them. My father, Thane, he's 65, worked construction his entire life until his back gave out 5 years ago. He's a man of few words, but when he did speak to me, it was usually to tell me how I was disappointing him. Again, the strong, silent type who could build a house with his bare hands, but couldn't build a relationship with his own son. They looked at me and saw failure. They saw wasted potential. They saw everything I wasn't instead of everything I had become. But here's what they didn't know about their so-called disappointment of a son. Here's the secret I kept for 3 solid years. Every single month, $2,847 transferred directly from my bank account to theirs. Every month. Like clockwork. That money went straight to paying their mortgage, the mortgage they thought was being covered by Dad's disability check and Mom's pension. Except, here's the math that would have blown their minds. Dad's disability covered $800 a month. Mom's pension covered $600. Their mortgage, $2,847. They were short by nearly $1,500 every single month, and they had no idea. I had been keeping them in their house for 3 years. 3 years of secret payments. 3 years of watching them struggle with grocery bills and car repairs, while I quietly made sure they had a roof over their heads. Over $100,000 of my money, and they never knew. I never told them the truth because I knew exactly what would happen if I did. They would rather lose the house than accept help from me. Their pride was more important than their home. Their image of me as a failure was more important than the reality of who I had become. So I kept paying. I kept the secret. And I kept getting treated like garbage by the 2 people I was literally keeping afloat. That was my first mistake. It wasn't always like this between us. There was a time when we were actually close, really close. Growing up, my dad was my hero. He taught me how to throw a baseball in the backyard every Sunday after church. He showed me how to change oil, how to fix a leaky faucet, how to throw a proper punch if someone ever messed with me. He taught me what it meant to be a man, or at least his version of it. My mom was my biggest cheerleader back then. She packed my lunches every morning with these little handwritten notes that said things like, "Have a great day, superstar," or "Remember, you can do anything." I used to save those notes in my bedroom drawer because they made me feel like I could conquer the world. We were a family. A real family. Sunday dinners, family vacations to the lake, movie nights on the couch. I was their boy, and they were proud of me. But somewhere along the way, everything changed. I became the family disappointment, and I can pinpoint exactly when it started. High school. I got arrested for spray painting the school gym with my friends. Stupid teenage stuff. We thought we were artists or rebels or something. But to my parents, it was the beginning of the end. Suddenly, I wasn't their superstar anymore. I was the kid who embarrassed them in front of the whole town. Then I dropped out of college. Twice. The first time, I was overwhelmed and partying too much. The second time, I just couldn't figure out what I wanted to do with my life. Each time I came home with my tail between my legs, I could see the disappointment growing in their eyes. Every girlfriend I brought home after that wasn't good enough. She's not right for you, Orion. Are you sure she's the type of girl you want to settle down with? What does her family do? Nothing was ever good enough. Every job I got wasn't impressive enough. When I worked retail, they asked when I was going to get a real job. When I worked in an office, they asked why I wasn't making more money. When I finally landed my current position in software development, making 6 figures, more money than either of them had ever seen, my mom's response was, "Well, let's see how long this one lasts." That comment hit me like a punch to the gut. Even my success was temporary in their eyes. Even when I proved them wrong, they were already waiting for me to prove them right. But here's the thing. I still loved them. Despite everything. Despite the constant criticism. Despite feeling like I could never be good enough. They were still my parents. And when Dad hurt his back on a construction site and couldn't work anymore, when the medical bills started piling up, when they fell 3 months behind on their mortgage and were facing foreclosure, I couldn't just stand by and watch them lose everything. So I stepped in, quietly, secretly, anonymously. I called their bank and set up an automatic transfer from my account to theirs. Then I called them and told them the bank contacted me about adjusting their payment plan due to Dad's disability. I made it sound official, like some kind of government assistance program. They never questioned it. They were so relieved they didn't ask for details. For 3 years, I watched them struggle with groceries. I watched them stress about car repairs, about medical bills, about every little expense. All while I was secretly keeping a roof over their heads. I told myself I was protecting their pride, that they wouldn't accept help from their disappointment of a son, that it was better this way. But the truth was simpler and more painful. I was protecting my own heart from another rejection. I couldn't handle hearing them say no to my help. I couldn't handle them choosing their pride over my love one more time. So I loved them in secret. I supported them in the shadows. And I let them keep treating me like I was nothing. That was my second mistake. Everything changed when I brought home Lyra. She was everything I had ever wanted in a partner. Beautiful, brilliant, successful. She had her master's degree in psychology and made good money as a therapist. On paper, she was perfect. She was kind, funny, ambitious, and for some miracle, she actually loved me back. But there was one thing about Lyra that my parents couldn't get past. She was black. And apparently that was a problem. My mom didn't say it outright at first. She was way too smart for that. Instead, she made these little comments that felt like tiny paper cuts. "She seems nice, Orion, but do you think she really understands our family? I'm just worried about what the neighbors will think. Are you sure this is what you want for your future children?" Each comment made my stomach turn, but I kept telling myself she didn't mean it the way it sounded. I kept making excuses for her. My dad was worse. So much worse. He'd literally leave the room when Lyra came over, just get up and walk away like she wasn't even there. When he thought I couldn't hear him, he'd make comments about keeping the bloodline pure and not mixing things up. The first time I heard him say that, I confronted them both. I asked them point blank if they had a problem with Lyra because she was black. You know what they said? "We're not racist, Orion, we just want what's best for you." That phrase, "we just want what's best for you," became their shield. Every racist comment, every uncomfortable silence, every time they made Lyra feel unwelcome in their home, they hid behind those 8 words. But here's the thing about dating a therapist. She sees through manipulation like it's made of glass. Lyra knew exactly what was happening. She could read their body language, their tone, their carefully chosen words. She knew they didn't want her there, and she knew why. She started declining invitations to family dinners. "I'm not feeling well," she'd say, or "I have work to catch up on." She stopped coming to Sunday barbecues. She stopped trying to win them over with conversation about her work or her family or her dreams. And honestly, I didn't blame her. Who wants to sit at a dinner table with people who think you're not good enough because of the color of your skin? But here's where I failed her. Here's where I failed myself. Instead of defending her harder, instead of setting boundaries with my parents, instead of telling them their behavior was unacceptable, I kept trying to make peace. I kept hoping they'd come around. I kept believing that if I just gave them more time, they'd see how amazing she was. I was caught between the woman I loved and the parents who had already disappointed me in every other way. And instead of choosing the person who actually loved and respected me, I kept trying to fix people who didn't want to be fixed. If you're seeing the red flags I was ignoring, hit that subscribe button, because this story is about to show you exactly what happens when you don't stand up for the people you love. But I need to ask you something. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to choose between family and love? How did you handle it? Because I was about to learn the hard way that sometimes the people who should support you the most are the ones who hurt you the deepest. That was my biggest mistake yet. Last month, Lyra and I got engaged. I had been planning it for weeks. I found the perfect ring, planned the perfect proposal, and when she said yes, I felt like the luckiest man alive. But underneath all that happiness was this knot of terror in my stomach, because I knew I had to tell my parents. Part of me hoped that maybe the ring would change everything. Maybe seeing how serious I was, how committed we were to each other, would finally make them accept her. Maybe they'd realize this wasn't some phase or rebellion, this was real love. So I decided to bring her over for Sunday dinner to announce our engagement. I figured if I did it in person, face to face, they'd have to be civil. They'd have to at least pretend to be happy for me. The moment we walked through that front door, I could feel the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Mom barely looked at Lyra when we came in. She gave her this cold little nod and immediately busied herself in the kitchen. Dad didn't even get up from his recliner. He just grunted some kind of greeting and kept watching TV like we weren't even there. We sat down at the dinner table, and I tried to make small talk, but every word felt forced. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. My heart was pounding as I reached into my pocket and pulled out the ring box. "Mom, Dad," I said, "Lyra and I have some news to share with you." I opened the box and showed them the ring. "We're getting married." The silence that followed was deafening. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The only sound was the ticking of the clock on the wall. It felt like an eternity. Finally, my mom spoke, and her voice was ice cold. "Orion, we need to talk, alone." Lyra squeezed my hand under the table. I could feel her trembling slightly, but her voice was steady when she spoke. "I'll wait in the car," she said quietly. The second the front door closed behind her, all hell broke loose. "How could you do this to us?" my mom screamed, and I mean screamed. Her face was red with rage. "How could you throw your life away like this?" My dad finally stood up from his chair, and when he looked at me, there was disgust in his eyes. Pure disgust. "That girl is going to ruin this family," he said. "She's using you, son. Can't you see that? She's after your money, your status, and you're too blind to see it." I tried to stay calm. I tried to be the reasonable one. "Dad, that's not true. Lyra makes her own money. She's successful, she's educated, she loves me." "She loves what you can give her," my mom interrupted. "Orion, you're being naive. These people, they have different values than us, different priorities." "These people," she actually said, "these people." I tried to explain that I loved Lyra, that she was good for me, that she made me happy in ways I had never been happy before. I tried to tell them they were being unfair, that they didn't even know her because they'd never given her a real chance. But they wouldn't listen. They didn't want to hear it. Then my mom started crying. But these weren't real tears. These were the manipulative tears she'd used on me since I was a kid. The tears that came out whenever she wanted to guilt me into doing what she wanted. If you marry her? She sobbed. You're choosing her over your family. Is that what you want, Orion? To lose your family forever? That's when it hit me like a brick to the face. That's when I realized something that absolutely broke my heart. They were asking me to choose. But the choice wasn't between Lyra and my family. The choice was between love and hate, between acceptance and prejudice, between the future I wanted and the past they were clinging to. They were choosing their racism over their son. And they were asking me to do the same thing. They were asking me to choose hate over love, just like they had. I looked at both of them, really looked at them, and said something I had never said before in my entire life. You're wrong, and you're being racist. My mom's tears stopped instantly, like someone had flipped a switch. Her face went from sad to furious in half a second, turning bright red with rage. Don't you dare call me racist, she screamed. I raised you better than that. My dad stepped closer to me, his finger pointing directly at my chest like he was about to poke a hole through it. You watch your mouth, boy. This is still our house. Our house? I almost laughed. Actually, I think I did laugh a little, because the irony was just too much. Dad, do you want to know something? I said, and my voice was calm now. Deadly calm. This house should have been foreclosed 3 years ago. You haven't made a mortgage payment since you got hurt. Not one. I have. Every single month, $2,847 transferred directly from my account to yours. The room went completely silent. You could hear the clock ticking on the wall. You could hear the neighbor's dog barking outside. You could hear my dad's heavy breathing. My mom's face went from red to white in seconds. My dad's mouth fell open like he'd been slapped. That's impossible, my mom whispered. Your father's disability check covers $800 a month, I interrupted. Your pension covers $600. Your mortgage is $2,847. Do the math, Mom. You're a retired teacher. You should be good with numbers. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. 3 years of transfers, all lined up in a neat little row. I held the screen up so they could both see it. I've been keeping you in this house for 3 years, I said. 3 years while you've been disrespecting the woman I love. 3 years while you've been treating me like garbage. 3 years while you've been acting like I'm some kind of failure who can't do anything right. My dad tried to stammer something, but I wasn't finished. Not even close. Lyra knows about the payments, I continued. She's known for months. You know what she told me? She told me to stop. She said you were using me, manipulating me, taking advantage of my love for you. I didn't listen because I thought family came first. I thought blood was thicker than water. I thought that deep down, you loved me more than you hated her. I looked directly at my mom, then at my dad. But you just proved me wrong. You just proved that your hatred is more important than your son. Your racism is more important than my happiness. Your prejudice is more important than keeping your family together. My dad's face was purple now. My mom was shaking. So congratulations, I said. You got what you wanted. You made me choose. And I choose the woman who loves me for who I am over the parents who love me for who they want me to be. That's when my mom completely lost it. Get out of my house and never come back. And there it was. The words that started this whole story, the words that would change everything between us forever. I grabbed my keys from the coffee table and looked at them both one last time. You're going to regret this, I said, and I walked out the door. I left that night and didn't look back. Lyra was waiting in the car, tears streaming down her face. She heard the shouting through the front door. The whole neighborhood probably heard it. I'm so sorry, she whispered as I got in the car. But you know what? I wasn't sorry anymore. For the first time in years, maybe in my entire adult life, I felt free. Like this massive weight had been lifted off my shoulders. The weight of constantly trying to earn love from people who had already decided I wasn't worth it. The next morning, I did something I should have done months ago. I called my bank and canceled the automatic transfer. 3 years of payments. Over $100,000 of my hard-earned money. Done. Finished. Cut off. Lyra and I started planning our wedding. Real planning this time, with people who actually loved and supported us. Her family welcomed me with open arms. My coworkers were excited for us. We had real conversations about our future, about our dreams, about building something beautiful together. For 3 weeks, I heard absolutely nothing from my parents. Radio silence. Part of me wondered if they were relieved I was gone. Part of me thought maybe they'd finally gotten what they wanted, their son out of their lives, so they could go back to their comfortable little world of prejudice and hate. Then my dad called. His voice was different, smaller. There was none of that authority, that commanding tone he usually used with me. He sounded almost desperate. "Orion, son," he said, and I could hear him breathing heavy on the other end. "There's been some kind of mistake with the mortgage. The bank says we're 3 months behind. They're talking about foreclosure proceedings. Can you help us figure this out?" I let him finish talking. I let him explain how confused they were, how they didn't understand what had happened, how they'd been calling the bank all morning trying to sort out this error. Then I said something that felt like the most honest words I'd ever spoken. "There's no mistake, Dad. I stopped paying your mortgage the day Mom told me to never come back. You wanted me out of your lives, so I took my money with me." The silence that followed stretched for 30 seconds, 30 long, uncomfortable seconds where I could hear him processing what I just said. I could practically hear his brain trying to make sense of it all. Finally, his voice came back, even smaller than before. "Orion, we need to talk. Can you come over?" "No," I said. Simple as that. You made your choice. I'm making mine. And I hung up. For the first time in my life, I hung up on my father, and it felt incredible. My mom called the next day, and this time she was crying real tears. Not those manipulative crocodile tears I'd seen my whole life. These were different. These were desperate. "Orion, please," she sobbed into the phone. "We're going to lose the house. We didn't know. We never knew you were helping us." "You never asked," I said, my voice completely calm. "You just assumed you deserved it." "We're sorry about Lyra," she whispered through her tears. "We want to meet her again. We want to make this right." But it was too late for apologies, way too late. "Mom," I said, "let me explain something to you. For 3 years I chose you over my own pride. I gave you my money, my time, my respect, even when you gave me nothing back. Nothing. The one single time, I asked you to choose me, to accept the woman I love, you chose hate instead. And now you want forgiveness? Now you want to make things right? Not because you realized you were wrong, but because you need my money." She tried to say something, but I wasn't finished. "You had 3 years to treat me with respect while I was paying your bills. You had 3 years to show me love while I was keeping a roof over your heads. Instead, you spent 3 years making me feel like garbage. And the moment I brought home someone who actually loves me, you showed me exactly where your priorities were." The foreclosure notice came 2 weeks later. Lyra and I drove by the house yesterday, the house I grew up in, the house where I learned to ride a bike, the house where I spent every Christmas morning until I was 26. There's a big red "for sale" sign planted right in the front yard. My parents are living with my aunt now. They've called me 17 times in the past month. I haven't answered a single call. People ask me if I feel guilty. Friends, co-workers, even Lyra sometimes looks at me with concern and asks if I'm okay with how things turned out. You know what the truth is? I sleep better now than I have in years. I wake up every morning next to a woman who loves me for exactly who I am. I don't have to worry about the next family dinner where I'll be criticized. I don't have to watch the woman I love get treated like she's not good enough. I don't have to keep funding people who think my happiness doesn't matter. I learned something important through all of this. You can't buy love, but you can definitely stop funding hate. My wedding is in 3 months. It's going to be beautiful. Full of people who actually want to be there. People who celebrate our love instead of trying to destroy it. My parents aren't invited. For the first time in my life, I'm building a family based on love, not obligation. And that house they're losing? The house they kicked me out of? Lyra and I put an offer on it yesterday. We're going to fill it with the love it never had when I was growing up. We're going to raise kids there who know they're valued for who they are, not who someone else wants them to be. But I want to know, do you think I made the right choice? Was I wrong to cut off my parents financially? Or do you think some people have to learn consequences the hard way? Let me know in the comments, because I'm still learning, that sometimes the best revenge is just living well. If you enjoyed this story, like, subscribe, and share with others so they can learn too. See you in our next video.